I can't support you anymore. I'm sorry I can't believe in you at a time like this. I'm John, 32 years old. Today, I'm divorcing my wife, Emily, who became paralyzed from the waist down in an accident. Everyone will probably say I'm abandoning my wife in her time of need. But there's been a lot leading up to this point. We've been struggling for years to have children. Once we decided to get fertility tests at a specialized clinic, we discovered it was her side issue, making it less likely for us to have a child. Emily cried and apologized to me every day. I didn't know what to say to her, and we both became depressed. During these dark days, more misfortune struck us. We met in a college ski club. On the bus to the ski camp with club members. Is this seat taken? Please, have a seat. Emily, a junior member, sat next to me. We quickly got close, talking about skiing, and even after returning from the camp, we started meeting up and hanging out at college. 3 years after graduating from college, we get married and were blessed by our friends from the club. Life should have been perfect, but we couldn't have a child. 5 years into our marriage, and still no child, Emily began to panic. Hey, Claire from our club is becoming a mom. Now I'm the only one from our circle without a kid. That was all she talked about recently. But there wasn't much we could do about it. So, we bravely went to a fertility clinic to find out if there was any problem. But the Dr. Alexander's words were harsh. There's nothing wrong with you, sir. However, your wife has severe endometriosis. It's difficult for her to conceive in this condition. I was stunned, listening to the Dr. Alexander speak so matter-of-factly. Tears didn't even come to my eyes. It was so unexpected. Emily lost all her spirit, knowing the issue was with her, and remained depressed even at home. Will I never be a mom? I dreamt of having a barbecue with you, me, and our child. I hugged and consoled her, who kept repeating I'm sorry in my arms. Whether we have children or not, I'm happy as long as I'm with you. Let's take our time and figure out our future together. I wasn't sure if she was convinced, but I expressed my feelings as best as I could. Emily nodded, but she still seemed troubled. Time passed, and it was December. The city sparkled with Christmas lights, a season of excitement for everyone. But for us, it was just another gloomy day. Even after finishing my busy year-end work, coming home to a depressed Emily made me feel suffocated. I wanted children too, but if it wasn't meant to be, I was content building a happy home with just Emily and me. I understand Emily's feelings well enough, but it's tough on me too. Gradually, our relationship started to falter, changing from it can be helped to enough is enough. Our marriage was deteriorating, but there was nothing we could do about it. Perhaps realizing things couldn't go on like this, Emily decided to go on a trip with her girlfriends for a change of scenery. I readily agreed, telling her to go and refresh herself. I just wanted her to become more positive. But I would later regret not forcibly stopping her, as she got involved in a major trouble that would change the course of her life. At that time, I had no way of knowing that Emily would be caught up in such a significant incident that would affect her future. Her destination was Colorado. Packing her ski gear, she said she was going to enjoy skiing in hot springs with friends. She was looking forward to stopping by Aspen on the way back, a place that held fond memories for us since that's where we had our wedding. Feeling relieved after seeing Emily off, I focused on work at the office. That's when I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hello, is this John's phone? I apologize for the sudden call. This is the Colorado State Police. I'm calling about your wife, Emily. She was involved in an accident. Her car slipped on the snow. I'll give you the details of the hospital, the officer explained. Shocked, I hastily informed my boss and rushed out of the office. Emily, who waved goodbye so cheerfully, in an accident. A slip on the snow. It couldn't be a minor injury if the call wasn't from Emily herself. All I could hope for was her survival as I boarded the train to Aspen. When I stepped off at Aspen Station, a cold wind hit my face like a slap, surrounded by a blanket of snow. Completely different from the scenery in New York, I huddled up due to the cold. I caught a taxi waiting at the station's roundabout and rushed to the hospital. Arriving at the hospital in a panic, I was greeted by several nurses and police officers. "John, your wife is currently in the ICU," a nurse said that, leading me to where Emily was. Through the ICU glass, I saw Emily, her body connected to numerous tubes, and I immediately realized the gravity of the situation, my anxiety intensifying. The reality in front of me crushed all my hopes that this was a lie. Tears streamed down my face, too overwhelmed to wipe them away. After the nurses finished explaining, 2 police officers started their briefing. "John, can we explain the details of the accident?" Their hesitant manner made me uneasy. "Your wife was with a male passenger. Were you aware of that?" I was stunned, hardly believing what I was hearing. "A man." "Emily?" "No. I thought she was with girlfriends. Is that not the case?" That was all I could manage to ask. "Emily meeting another man?" I was certain she had planned a trip with her girlfriends, but now she was involved in an accident with a lover. Seeing my silence, the officers seemed flustered. "If you weren't aware, it's okay. Thankfully, the male passenger only had minor injuries and has already been discharged. Now, all we can do is wait for your wife's condition to stabilize." They said and left. Left behind, I sat on a bench, my head in my hands. What was going on? What was Emily doing? Why did she lie to me? I must have sat there dazed for quite some time. Then, from a distance, I faintly heard someone calling. "Is Emily's husband here? She's regained consciousness." Hearing the nurse's voice eager to share the good news, I snapped back to reality. Hurrying to Emily's side, I saw her in pain, trying to tell me something. "John, I'm really sorry." She murmured this to me, barely conscious. "It's okay, don't worry. Stay strong, Emily." I encouraged her frantically, forgetting what the police officer had told me. Later, I was called by Dr. Shelton for an explanation. Can my wife recover fully?" I asked apprehensively. Dr. Shelton gave a grim explanation. "Unfortunately, your wife has sustained a severe spinal injury. It's highly likely she'll be paralyzed from the waist down. So, she won't be able to live as before. Most likely, she'll need a wheelchair. Given her current condition, I was prepared, but it was still a major injury that involved a risk to life. Actually, it was almost a miracle that she survived." I felt utterly devastated as it plunged into darkness. Since then, I visited Emily in the hospital every weekend, supporting her through rehabilitation. When she could eat by herself, I mustered up the courage to ask her something that had been troubling me. "Emily, I need to ask you something. Who were you with on the day of the accident?" Emily froze for a moment, clearly troubled. "I'm sorry, I can tell you, it was someone I shouldn't have been with. I did something really foolish." Finally, Emily made a statement that seemed like an admission of her affair. And that single sentence became the decisive factor in my decision to divorce. I had planned to support her, regardless of her physical challenges, if she had been innocent. But if she had betrayed me, I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life with her. I finally brought up divorce. She was shocked, but ultimately agreed. Only her father, my father-in-law, tried to persuade me to reconsider. Despite his repeated pleas, I politely refused and decided to divorce. Emily and I, who had once loved each other so deeply and married. Yet, when it came to parting, it was all severed abruptly. 3 years have passed since I divorced Emily. It took a long time to recover. Ever since that day, Christmas time, with its bright lights and festive mood, became a trauma for me. I would sigh, looking at the happy couples, trying not to be a nuisance as I walked by. Feeling pitiful and miserable, I was suddenly stopped by a stranger. "Excuse me, are you John?" Suddenly, I was stopped by an unfamiliar man. Turning around, I saw a man I had never met before. "This is our first meeting. I'm a childhood friend of your ex-wife, Emily." Emily. That was a name I hadn't heard in a long time, and I was both surprised and confused. "Sorry, actually, I was the man she came to meet in Aspen that day." His revelation hit me like a hammer. What? This man was with Emily. His sudden confession boiled my blood. "What do you mean? You've turned my life upside down. Emily's condition is irreversible. How dare you approach me?" I held my breath, surprising myself with how calmly yet forcefully I confronted the man. I had to restrain myself, or I might have lashed out with a punch. Everything had changed since that day. I've regretted it many times. All because of this man. Getting angry is understandable, but please calm down and listen. There's likely a misunderstanding because Emily didn't explain everything. Sensing my mood, the man also cautiously braced himself. "First, my name is Nathan. I'm Emily's childhood friend and a practicing doctor in Aspen." The man named Nathan said while handing me his business card, and then began to explain the situation back then. It turned out that Emily had consulted Nathan about her fertility issues. When Nathan told her about a fertility specialist in Aspen, Emily had asked him to refer her, and he wrote her a referral letter. Emily thought I would oppose the treatment because I had been hesitant about fertility treatment. Nathan explained. She lied about the trip to secretly visit the doctor Nathan referred her to. "Today, I came to this city for a conference, and by chance, I saw you. I recognized you immediately, having seen your wedding photo with Emily. I've always been sworn to secrecy by Emily, but I'm glad I decided to tell you. I would have regretted it for the rest of my life if I hadn't spoken to you today." Nathan repeatedly pleading with me to meet Emily. "You should hear the circumstances from her and resolve this misunderstanding," he urged. I was overwhelmed by the sudden revelation, but eventually nodded deeply, agreeing to visit Emily's family home. The weekend after hearing Nathan's story, I took a train and finally arrived at Emily's family home. Standing at the front door, unsure of what to do, I hesitated for a while. But I really wanted to hear the explanation from Emily herself. Gathering my courage, I rang the doorbell. The leisurely chime sounded indifferent to my feelings, and after a while, the door opened. "Who is it?" For a moment, I was confused as I heard a voice but saw no one until I lowered my gaze significantly and saw Emily in a wheelchair. "John, it's been a while. Sorry for coming unannounced." I was relieved to see Emily looking well. Emily was beyond surprised by my visit, frozen in place. After getting used to moving her wheelchair, she led me to the living room. "I met Nathan by chance, who happens to be your childhood friend, and he told me everything. Is it true that you went to Aspen that day for fertility treatment?" I asked. Emily bit her lip and nodded. "Why didn't you consult me beforehand?" As I tried to understand the situation, tears began to overflow from Emily's eyes. "You said it was okay for us to live together, just the two of us, but I still wanted to have our child. I couldn't give up on that. But after my reckless actions led to my condition, I couldn't ask you to take care of me. Not only can I not have children, but now I require lifelong care. I thought it was better for us to part ways, believing you would surely be happier that way." As if a switch had been flipped, she began to speak. It seemed like she was trying to release all the feelings she had been holding back, along with her tears. She hadn't kept it a secret out of malice. If it weren't for the accident, she would have just visited the doctor introduced by her childhood friend. She probably felt unable to bring it up. She didn't deny the infidelity suspicion, accepting it instead. That was her way of showing her love, considering her now disabled condition. I was lost for words, looking up to see Emily's father standing behind her. "I'm so sorry for what we put you through, John. I knew about it too, but as a parent, it was unbearable to see my daughter face a lonely future with her disability. Please forgive us," he said. Facing them, I straightened up. "I'm also responsible. Emily was suffering, and I was insensitive to say that it was okay not to have children. We should have explored more possibilities that we both could agree on," I admitted. Reaching out, I held Emily's hands resting on her lap. "I'm so sorry for leaving you alone, Emily." I apologized from my heart. Kneeling in front of Emily in her wheelchair, holding her hands, I was like a knight seeking forgiveness from his princess. "Now, I understand what you were saying. Even with a body that can't bear children, I should have thought of ways to make you happy as your wife. I should have genuinely appreciated that you stayed by my side and changed." Emily also opened up to me about her honest feelings now. Finally, we were both able to express our reflections and regrets. And so, we were able to correct the years-long mistake of mismatched buttons. Several years later, we remarried. We both regretted the divorce and still had love for each other. It's not easy, but I want to try again. I proposed to Emily, pledging my love to her. Emily was happy but remained puzzled until the end by her need for care. I faced each of her fears one by one, discussing solutions together. We renovated our home for accessibility, and when I'm not around, we rely on a caretaker. Even if we can't have children, we wanted to live together. With that shared desire, we finally took the step forward. I am determined not to leave Emily's feelings behind again, but to firmly support her. "I think I know you from somewhere. Are you by any chance, Mark?" Today was an important wedding anniversary with my wife. I had reserved a popular, high-scale restaurant for this special day. And there she was, my ex-girlfriend, whom I loved to even call an ex. She cheated on me with a rich guy and then easily dumped me. "By the way, are you still poor?" my ex said. Next to her was her boyfriend with condescending manner. "My boyfriend is going to be the next president of the major corporation, KK Holdings. Compared to him, you're still poor and shabby." I was getting irritated being belittled by these two who knew nothing about me. "Mark, what's wrong?" I heard my dear wife's voice. "Thanks to you breaking up with Mark, I got to marry the best man, who has both status and honor. Thank you for everything, ex-girlfriend." 9.9 seconds later, my ex-girlfriend's life started to collapse. I'm Mark Morrison, 27 years old. Married, blessed with good in-laws and a job. No kids yet, but happily married and living joyful days. Today, to celebrate our wedding anniversary, I reserved a celebration at a high-class restaurant. The restaurant is so famous that everyone knows it, and you have to wait 6 months to get a reservation. The venue boasts a rich history, making it a popular choice for wedding receptions. Its garden blooms with a variety of seasonal flowers, creating a picturesque setting. In its ornamental pond, colorful koi fish glide gracefully, adding to the serene ambience. It's a prestigious restaurant frequented by politicians and celebrities incognito. Currently, because of work, my wife and I had to come separately, so I was waiting for her at the gate of the restaurant. I've known my wife, Charlotte, since high school. I was in the brass band, and she joined as a freshman when I was a sophomore. I played the clarinet, and she played the flute. "Charlotte, let me carry the music stand for you. It's heavy, huh?" "Are you sure? You have your own to carry." "Sure. I can handle it. Besides, I was just carrying mine anyway." "No problem." Though we played different instruments, we often practiced together as woodwind players. "Charlotte, you're really good." "Thank you. I've been playing since I was little." "Really? Your playing is so beautiful, I get lost in it." Thank you. Your clarinet playing is wonderful too. Thanks. She had been playing the flute since she was little, and she displayed her talent as soon as she entered school, becoming the best in our school's band. I initially thought some members might be jealous of her. Hey, Charlotte, not that way, you go this way. Oh, thank you for telling me. I appreciate it. Charlotte, you look really nice. Thank you. You look great too. Actually, no one felt jealous of her. Rather, her gentle demeanor made her popular, not just with her peers but with everyone, and she was naturally beloved. Charlotte, you're quite popular, aren't you? Thank you for saying so, but you're more popular, Mark. Not at all. Besides, I have a girlfriend. Back then, I had a girlfriend named Jenny. I met her right after entering high school. I love your cool clarinet playing. Would you go out with me? She told me, and we started dating. She was already known as a beauty back then. Overwhelmed by her attention, I quickly agreed to date her. I had never had a girlfriend before and tried my best to treat her right, always being sincere. We spent many happy days together, studying at each other's houses and going to parties. But suddenly, everything fell apart. Hey, are you free tomorrow? Sorry, I have practice. Okay, some other time then. During summer in my sophomore year, I saw her walking and holding hands with some guy I didn't know. Where were you yesterday? Huh? I was at home. Liar, I saw you walking with some college guy. Oh, you saw that. So what? When I confronted Jenny, she nonchalantly admitted she was cheating on me with a wealthy college student. He's rich and fun to be with. It's just boring being with you. What's that supposed to mean? Let's break up. And just like that, I was dumped. Bad things seemed to continue. In spring in my senior year, I lost my dad in a car accident. He had caused a multi-car pileup, leaving us with a huge compensation to pay. I was in a public high school, so I managed to graduate, but I had two younger brothers. They were both in middle school and they sure ate a lot. I couldn't leave all the burden to my mom, so I started working part-time to help out. I always worked after school. I hardly ever showed up at the brass band club. Hey, isn't that Mark? One day, Jenny showed up at the convenience store where I worked. You're working. Then you must have money to hang out, right? Let's go somewhere. I'm not going. I don't work to hang out, and I have no reason to go out with you since I'm not with you anymore. Come on, it's no big deal. Why are you working if it's not for fun? It's none of your business. Just tell me. Leave me alone. I'm working to live. I need the money to survive. Jenny laughed mockingly when she heard my situation. Seriously, that's hilarious. You're super poor. Her laughter and mocking hurt me deeply. Enough. We're over, remember? Right. Breaking up with a poor guy like you was the right choice. Bye, poor boy. She said that and left. I was filled with anger to her, and at the same time, anxiety for the uncertain hardships that I had to pay off the debt. But then Charlotte came into my life and changed everything. Charlotte kept visiting me at my part-time job, urging, Mark, please perform in the concert. I wish I could, but I can't. Why? If I don't work, my brothers won't get by on. I openly shared my situation with her after her persistent visits. And still, I declined to participate in the concert. Then, I'll work in your place. Please, perform in the concert. Why would you go that far? This is your last concert, isn't it, Mark? Everyone wants you to play. Please, join us. We're all waiting for you. She wasn't her usual gentle self, always looking after others. She was determined, almost making me fall for her. Mark. Oh, nothing. Actually, I was already falling for her. Mark, if she's offering that, why not cut back a bit? Andrew suggested. He was the owner of the place where I worked. I decided to discuss it with my mom. Mom, I really want to be in this last concert. Can I reduce my work hours? Despite feeling guilty, I asked. Mom smiled and nodded. I appreciate how hard you've worked. It's your last performance. Of course, you should do it. We'll save more, too. Don't worry about us, Mark. As long as we have bread, we're good. Encouraged by my brothers, I was able to perform in the final concert. It was a huge success. Mark, this is from all of us. On stage, the juniors presented me with a bouquet. Taking a closer look, it was made of vegetables like broccoli and scallions, and I found myself yelling, "You guys are the best." I was laughing and crying before I knew it, getting swarmed by everyone. Afterward, I returned to my busy work life. I wasn't planning on college, but just a job. Andrew from the convenience store offered me a position. Mark, you're a hard worker. How about working at my liquor store? I was hired as a full-time employee at his liquor store. Grateful for a job after high school, but also said I wouldn't see Charlotte anymore. So, I decided to tell her. I'm starting a full-time job next month, so I won't be here anymore. Is that so? Yeah. Thanks for everything. Because of your persistence, I have no regrets. Charlotte looked down, then determinedly met my eyes. Don't say that, Mark. I don't want to stop seeing you. You mean, I like you, Mark. I'm really happy to hear that, but I'm just a high school graduate with no prospects. I want you to be happy, so I can't go out with you. I didn't fall for you because of your job. It's your kindness, how you speak softly, help when needed, take on tasks others dislike, and your seriousness. That's what I love. I just did what anyone would. That's exactly why I like you. She gave me her genuine feeling to me. Her straightforward words won me over, and we started dating. We helped with each other's studies, went to parties together. We made so many memories that I even forgot about Jenny. Charlotte, don't you feel bored with me? Not at all. Just being with you makes me so happy. Really? You're not just saying that. Of course, I'm serious. I'm head over heels for you, Mark. Eventually, when I turned 25, Charlotte and I got married. For our wedding, not only did we invite family, but also everyone from the brass band club. Mark, if you make Charlotte cry, I won't forgive you. Of course I won't make her cry. And today is our second wedding anniversary. Joshua, really now? As I was reminiscing about those days, a man and woman approached. What? The woman looked familiar. I stared at her face. Then I remembered. It was Jenny, who had dumped me years ago. Her looks had changed a bit, but her atmosphere was the same as back then. I didn't recognize the man, but he was dressed in a fancy suit, his shoes and watch gleaming. They were obviously expensive. Hey, aren't you, Mark? You know him. Remember I told you before, the guy I dated in high school just because of his looks, the boring and poor ex. Oh, so he's the infamous dark past guy. They had noticed me too. And they came to me with smirks. What brings you here? None of your business. Just leave. Why won't you tell me? We used to be close, right? Don't be creepy. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. No plans to be friends either. Poor people are so narrow-minded. Yeah. As I kept giving cold responses to Jenny, who's trying to provoke me, was getting on her nerves. By the way, are you still poor? I've told you, it's none of your business. Of course you are, unlike Joshua here. She started introducing the man next to her, who is grinning as well. This is Joshua. He's my boyfriend. So what? He's the future president of KK Holdings. He's different from you. You're still poor and pathetic. She and her boyfriend laughed. KK Holdings' future president, huh? Seems like she didn't know anything. I just looked at them coldly. So, are you still a part-time worker at the liquor store? Or doing construction or something? What if I am? It's none of your business. And what's wrong with working at a liquor store or in construction? Nothing. But at your age, not being able to wear even one luxurious brand item. It's lame. I'm glad I broke up with you. Right. Look at my watch. Too bright for you. Your cheap suit can't compare to mine. Such nonsense. I checked the time, ignoring them. By the way, what are you doing in a fancy place like this? Are you even able to afford a meal? This place is different from those you know. Too high class for the likes of you. Yeah, don't do something shameful like dine and dash. It's so typical of poor people. I can't believe I used to go out with you. Ginny's taunts and Joshua's condescending looks were getting to me. Enough already. Of course I can pay. I've had this reservation for over 6 months. So what? Your being here tarnishes the reputation of this place. Just leave. Just as Jenny was about to push me away, I heard the sweet voice of my wife. Mark, what's going on? As we turned toward the voice, there was Charlotte, walking towards us with 2 bodyguards. Dressed in a white, elegant dress, her hair neatly done, and her makeup flawless, she looked stunning. Her dignified walk was simply magnificent. The bodyguards accompanied with her were in well-tailored suits with sculpted physiques visible even through the fabric. Their sharp gazes from behind sunglasses were almost overpowering. Sorry to keep you waiting. Charlotte entwined her arm with mine, smiling beautifully just like the old times. The couple in front of us was speechless. Isn't that Charlotte, the flutist? Why would someone famous like her be here? Realizing who they were, Charlotte let go of my arm. I'm Charlotte, Mark's wife. It's a pleasure to meet you. She shook hands firmly, greeting Jenny. Her gaze still settled on Jenny. From the years of being with her, I knew just what she had in mind. She recognized Jenny as one of her band members from school and my ex-girlfriend. You seem familiar. Jenny, recognizing Charlotte, frowned in confusion. You're my husband's ex, right? Thank you so much. What? Jenny made a puzzled face at Charlotte, who spoke smiling softly. Charlotte said with a light smile, but her eyes weren't. I've always wanted to thank you. Thank me? Yes. Thanks to you breaking up with Mark, I could marry him. He's so talented that our company is thriving. Truly, thank you so much. What are you talking about? Jenny was utterly baffled by Charlotte's words. Even if you're famous, it's not much to date such a poor guy, isn't it? My maiden name is Kingsley. My family owns a business named KK Holdings. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Joshua, Jenny's companion. Mark has agreed to being CEO. Today is not only our anniversary, but also a celebration for him. Jenny looked still confused, but Joshua's face turned stiff. You ridiculed my husband, but aren't you supposed to be the next CEO? Because that's strange. I don't recognize you. Who are you exactly? As Charlotte pressed him, Joshua's face went pale. Please, tell me who you are. Who are you? Claiming to be the next CEO of KK Holdings. Are you really a person concerned? Damn it, Joshua blurted. Wait, where are you going? He tried to escape and made a run for it. Jenny watched him run off in shock. Let's go, Mark. Charlotte took my arm again. Jer, let's enjoy our dinner. I glanced at Jenny, standing still in shock, and escorted Charlotte into the restaurant. You might have guessed by now, but Charlotte is the daughter of Kirsten Kingsley, the CEO of KK Holdings, and the granddaughter of Carl Kingsley, the chairman. She received various forms of elite education from a young age. Playing the flute was one of them. She was a very talented and intelligent woman, and it seems she fell for me because I had been kind to her from the beginning of high school. I was glad. Everyone was nice to me because I was a rich man's daughter, but you were kind to me regardless of that. But at that time, I was dating Jenny. At first, I tried to give up, but then I heard a rumor that you had broken up with your ex-girlfriend. I thought maybe I had a chance. Just when she was about to give up, she found out that Jenny and I broke up, and she decided to give it another try. I used to go to the convenience store back then, not only because I wanted you to be in the concert, but more than anything, I wanted to see you, Mark. I wanted to do something for you, and I hoped you'd start to be aware of me in a more than friendly way. Thanks to her efforts, I am now married to Charlotte. The calm demeanor she showed in the club activities was her way of getting by, it seems. If I act like that, everyone gets along with me. Actually, I'm quite cunning," she said, slightly embarrassed. She told me that her real personality is way much harsher. But I can tell because I'm always with her. Looking at her smiling gently beside me, I realize that's just a part of her, and she ordinarily has the calm personality. Well, now I find that even bilateral character of hers endearing. A few days later, I got a call from the police. I heard that a con artist using the name of KK Holdings, the company I was set to take over, had been arrested. That con artist was Jenny's boyfriend, Joshua. He was a marriage scammer, deceiving many women and swindling money from them. I knew that the name of KK Holdings was being used by a fraud group. The company was just investigating, and coincidentally, the mastermind appeared right there. I contacted the police right after that, and he was successfully arrested. Apparently, the rest of the fraud group was arrested one by one based on Joshua's testimony. They'll be paying restitution for the rest of their lives, more than they can probably ever afford. As for Jenny, even after going to college, she targeted richer, more handsome men, switching them out frequently. She caused a lot of trouble, sometimes even stealing men from others, and was eventually shunned by her friends. Still, being beautiful, many men approached her. But it all ended as casual flings. Maybe everyone ran away after getting to know her true nature. The only one she managed to get engaged to was Joshua. They had exchanged promises of marriage, received an engagement ring, and even met each other's parents. They were just about to decide on a wedding venue. That's why she completely trusted Joshua and lent him a large sum of money. Furthermore, she even went into debt to support him. After this incident, she was disowned by her parents and couldn't even contact her old friends. She had quit her job to get married, so all she was left with was debt. When she quit, she bragged, "I'm marrying the next CEO of KK Holdings," to her ex-coworkers, so now she can't even return to her old job. On the other hand, I was working hard at a liquor store I joined after high school. The owner, Andrew, not only ran the convenience store and the liquor store, but also expanded into various businesses, and his company was a subsidiary of KK Holdings. "You're the Mark that he talked about. I've heard about you from him that you're very earnest and excellent. Would you like to work with us?" Andrew had dinner a few times with Charlotte's father, and her father heard about me and thought highly of me. Thanks to my hard work, I was headhunted by KK Holdings. Kirsten found out about my relationship with Charlotte after I was headhunted. "I didn't know you were dating my daughter." "I apologize. I didn't even know she was your daughter." "I figured. You're not the type to date someone for ulterior motives. I know how capable you are, Mark. I trust you with my daughter." So, I got permission to date her. Moreover, marry Charlotte soon and learn the ropes of being an executive. "I'm counting on you as my successor," he said unexpectedly, and I married Charlotte at 25. I learned the ropes under Kirsten and managed to live up to his expectations. Eventually, when Carl retired, Kirsten, my father-in-law, became the chairman, and I was appointed CEO. By that time, my family's life was stable. I had paid off all my debts by the time I became CEO. One of my brothers went to college on a scholarship. I can afford to lose to you, Mark. He graduated successfully and now works for a top company. My youngest brother didn't go to college but became a city employee after high school and now lives independently. I grew up seeing you worked so hard, so I know how to do things when I have to. My mom was enjoying a leisurely life living alone after all her sons, including me, had left the nest. It's fun being on my own because I can do whatever I want. No need to worry about me, she said, happily engaged in her hobby of crafting every day. Occasionally, we receive cute crocheted toys from her, which Charlotte joyfully decorates our home with. Charlotte, meanwhile, had woke up her talent in playing the flute while I was preparing to become the future CEO. Everything is gonna be fine with you, Mark. I can leave things in your hands with confidence. Thanks. You keep up the good work too. I'm rooting for you. Thank you. Saying this, she trusted me and left me on running the company, and now she's a famous flutist, touring the country. I believe the sound of her flute is the greatest comfort in my busy days. Even when I'm traveling, I listen to her CDs in the car, and whenever I have time, I listen to her playing the flute. You really love your wife, Mark. Yeah, I do. So, I've become quite famous as a loving husband at the company. That was after a while since my appointment as CEO, following Joshua's arrest. Mr. Morrison, there's a woman named Jenny at the reception. Jenny, she's demanding to see the CEO. What should we do? Jenny suddenly showed up at the company. All right, I'll go to her. Honestly, I wanted to ignore her, but I couldn't let her cause trouble at the reception, so I reluctantly went to see her. Sir, it's okay, I'll handle it. Wow, you're really the CEO. That's amazing. Jenny's eyes sparkled as she watched me reassure the worried receptionist who called me to reception as CEO. She clearly wasn't hiding her ulterior motives. What are you doing here? Don't cause trouble at the company. Don't be so cold. Come on, Mark. Can't we get back together? What? Are you kidding me? I have a wife. You've seen her. I don't care about that. I love you, Mark. She said this and tried to cling to my arm, but I instinctively avoided her. It was over 10 years ago that we dated. Honestly, I had even forgotten about you until we met again recently. To be clear, you're a nuisance. Don't follow me around anymore. Don't say that. Just leave, please. But I'm in a really tough spot right now. That marriage scammer deceived me, and I lost everything. Please, take me back and help me. I tried to send her away, but Jenny wouldn't leave. I'm much better than that dull lady. Being with her must be boring, right? Let's get back together. Her words got me snapped. You can say whatever you want about me. I was poor, that's true. But I won't tolerate any insults towards my wife. Charlotte is my savior and the only person I want to protect for the rest of my life. Don't you dare mock her. But, in the first place, you once said dating me was a dark past for you, right? That's my line. Sure, being poor was tough, but it was nothing compared to the time I spent with you. You are the only shame in my life. You. How dare you say that? Immediately after, her handbag flew towards my face. I picked it up and touched the leather. What's this? Cheap faux leather. You had the nerve to say it's embarrassing not to wear high-end brand names. You're the one who should be embarrassed. Shut up. You should just be obedient to me. Jenny screamed with her face turning red with my provocation. A few minutes later, the police called by the reception staff took Jenny away for causing harm to me. She was already disowned by her parents and friends, and now she's arrested in addition to her debts. Her life seems hopeless now. She brought it upon herself. It feels refreshing to think that I won't be involved with her anymore. I really have changed. In the past, I wouldn't have been able to talk back to Jenny like that, I mused to myself. I couldn't help but laugh at my thought. Well, I am CEO now. You have to be strong to be CEO, the leader of the company. And this strength, I learned it from Charlotte. Even when she's not by my side, her presence protects me. I have to live up to that. As expected, Jenny's situation turned out just as I thought it would. With her massive debts and no relatives to turn to, she apparently works from dawn to dusk. She couldn't rely on her former fiancé either, as his sentence was longer than hers, and even after his release, I believe he wouldn't take her back. I've also obtained a restraining order from the court, so she can't come near the company. Well, my in-laws wouldn't allow it anyway. Charlotte. Yeah, I managed to make a booking at the restaurant we went to before. Last time we were interrupted, but this time, let's enjoy our dinner without any disturbances. Yes, I'd love that. Actually, I have something important to tell you. Something important? Yes, a very important and good news. Some time later, I was listening to my wife playing the flute and thought about how truly happy I am. After finishing playing her flute, Charlotte sat down beside me. I want to listen to her clarinet. I haven't listened to it for so long. She asked with a smile. I readily agreed and stood up to play my clarinet. I played a song from a famous movie, popular as a lullaby. Charlotte listened to it with a gentle smile. She was stroking her belly. We're going to have a child. Charlotte's parents and my family are looking forward to our coming baby. Especially Charlotte's father. He had already bought a lot of baby stuff since it's their first grandchild. We've been through a lot. But we've overcome it all and are incredibly happy now. We have this happiness because we never gave up. I won't let anyone disturb this happiness. If necessary, I'll harden my heart to drive them away. What shall we name our baby? Let's see. Long time no see. I'm working as a flight attendant here. What are you doing now, Tyler? After dropping out of high school, at the airport, after more than a decade, I ran into Ashley, a beautiful former classmate from France, with whom I had a falling out back in high school. She ridiculed me when I decided to drop out of high school. Being a high school dropout, you couldn't possibly be doing anything significant. Why are you even at the airport? Ashley still had that tough look in her eyes and spoke to me in a condescending manner. I answered, feeling a bit uneasy. I'm a pilot for your company. What, you? A pilot? That's impossible for a high school dropout. Well, actually, as I was about to explain, she was called away by a colleague and left. Ashley and I reunited under the worst circumstances. Little did we know, from this point on, our lives would become intricately intertwined. My name is Tyler. I'm a first-year high school student, part of a family of 4 including my parents and younger sister, Sky. My father's parents have passed away, but my mother's parents are still alive. They live in France, and my grandfather is French. So, I'm a quarter French. When you're a quarter, classmates often ask, can you speak French? But being a quarter doesn't mean you're born with the ability to speak French. I'm currently studying hard to communicate with my non-English speaking grandfather via video calls. I haven't met my grandparents yet, but hope to visit France and meet them soon. This makes me passionate about my French classes, putting extra effort into both preparation and review. In my class, there's Ashley, a returnee from France, and we always compete for the top spot in French tests. Ashley beat me to first place in the last test, so I'm determined to outdo her next time. During tests, everyone sparks off their own rivalries, but our class generally gets along well. Recently, more than half of us went to an aquarium even though it wasn't a field trip. Of course, Ashley and I were part of it too. There, Ashley and I ended up competing in Pride, getting a French version of the aquarium guide pamphlet, and had a tough time. After all, it's a guide to the aquarium, so it's full of rare fish names. Since it's all in French, we had no idea what it was talking about. Both of us thought oh no the moment we opened the pamphlet, but with each other watching, it was too late to back out. We spent the day desperately with that French pamphlet, but honestly, we couldn't understand even half of it. Come to think of it, a few weeks before the aquarium, we also went to an aviation museum with a few people. I love airplanes and aspire to be a pilot. Ashley, who got free tickets, invited me and a few close friends. The museum showcased the history of commercial aviation and the latest technology in passenger aircraft, which thrilled me. During a break at the museum's cafe, I passionately talked about how amazing airplanes are, which slightly put off everyone else. But among them, Ashley was the only one who listened without disdain until the end. I guess Ashley must really love airplanes too. Those carefree high school days seemed to have a clear future, but that turned out to be a sweet illusion. It was on a snowy day, as the first year of high school was coming to an end. In our region, it rarely snows, so we didn't have any snow removal tools prepared. But considering the snowfall that night, we decided it'd be best to shovel, so my parents went out to buy one at the home center. The home center, located along the highway and quite far, would usually require a drive, but we didn't have chains, of course. Driving in the snow was deemed too dangerous, so they set out on foot. While my sister and I were house-sitting, we talked about how late Mom and Dad were. They were so late that we joked they might be drinking coffee at a cafe because it was too cold. They were unusually late. Just as we started to worry if they had slipped somewhere, an unknown number called my phone. Hesitantly, I answered, only to find it was a call from the police. My parents had been hit by a truck that slipped while they were walking along the highway. An ambulance was called immediately, but they passed away before they could be operated on. It was I who answered the call, but my sister understood everything from my expression and burst into tears. Holding her, I cried too. The suddenness of it all left me unable to think. I was only 15 and could do nothing but cry with my sister. What were we to do now? With our paternal grandparents in the U.S. already passed away, our only option was our maternal grandparents in France. They flew to the U.S. immediately upon receiving the news. During the wake and the funeral, they proposed, "Why don't you come live with us in France? We have spare rooms, so you can each have your own, and don't worry about school. We can enroll you in one over there." Leaving the U.S., where I was born and raised, was daunting, but with our parents gone, we had no choice but to rely on our grandparents, who were kind and made us feel safe. My sister felt the same. It's sudden, but I'm quitting school and going to my grandma's place in France. When I told my classmates the next day, they were all surprised. Naturally, I hadn't wanted to burden them with the news of my parents' passing, so I kept it to myself. So, for them, it was like the guy who had been off for a week suddenly came back to school only to say he was dropping out. Especially Ashley, who was strongly opposed. "Tyler, come down and think. If you drop out of high school, you won't be able to do anything in the future. You want to be a pilot, don't you?" she said, near tears with anger. But I, having just lost my parents, couldn't afford to consider the true meaning behind Ashley's words. What did it matter if we couldn't do anything? We, siblings, were in trouble right now. Our only reliance was our grandparents in France. I was not without my fears. "It's none of your business. I'm going to France," I snapped. Ashley and I, usually on good terms, shouting at each other like this, shocked everyone in the class. Neither of us had the luxury to care about the surroundings, and we stormed out of the classroom. The next day, and the day after, Ashley was absent from school. Leaving without making up, I departed for France. Years have passed since then. Upon arriving in France, I was immediately enrolled in a high school there. I thought I had studied French quite a bit, but the French medium classes in French high school were truly challenging. My grandparents taught me words over and over again. They would read textbooks and school notices with me, translating them into English whenever I didn't understand. My sister initially struggled to fit into the French middle school, often crying, but within 2 months, she made friends and eventually became better at French than me, even teaching me slang. Thanks to my family, I never failed a grade and progressed through high school. Gradually, I no longer struggled with the language and went on to university. I fulfilled my childhood dream and became a pilot. After working for a few years with a French airline, I was headhunted by an American airline and returned to the US. Today, taking in the familiar air of the US, at the airport, I suddenly spotted a nostalgic figure. Ashley. During high school, I had a falling out with Ashley, who was now, as a flight attendant in the airline I'm about to join next month, walking confidently in uniform, pulling her carry-on. Ashley. When she saw me rushing over, she widened her eyes in surprise. But then, Ashley said with a hint of condescension, "Long time no see. I'm working here as a flight attendant. What are you doing now, Tyler?" After dropping out of high school, I answered, feeling a bit awkward. "I'm a pilot for your company." "What are you, Tyler?" Ashley looked puzzled. "That's right. How about we grab some coffee?" I was about to invite her to talk about my time in France when it happened. Called by a colleague in the same uniform, Ashley hurriedly ran off. Ashley, who had been beautiful since high school, had become more sophisticated and even more beautiful as an adult. The slim flight attendant uniform suited her very well. I watched her retreating back in a daze. Just before turning the corner, Ashley glanced back at me for a moment. Our eyes met briefly, and both of us quickly looked away in a fluster. After finally meeting, were we still unable to reconcile? I muttered to myself. The fact that I had parted ways with Ashley on bad terms had always been a nagging thought at the back of my mind. Still, working at the same company might mean something. I'm sure an opportunity to make up will come. Shifting my mood, I headed to greet the company. Next month, my first flight with the new company was to Paris. It was my first flight only in the sense that it was with this company. I've been flying for years. It was just another day of flying safely. Safely arrived in Paris, I was taking a moment to relax at the airport. "Tyler, would you like to join me for lunch?" One of Ashley's colleagues, a flight attendant, invited me to have a meal. She was quite beautiful. Well, most flight attendants are, but she was particularly stunning. "Lunch sounds great. Hey, why don't we invite Ashley too?" I suggested, thinking it would be more fun with Ashley joining, but her colleague let out a small sigh and quickly walked away. "Tyler, you're as oblivious as ever," Ashley sighed. "What's the matter? You two not getting along anyway, Ashley? How about lunch? I have a prior engagement." "Okay, no worries then." She curtly declined, leaving me aimlessly looking out the window. Despite saying she had a prior commitment, Ashley didn't leave immediately, but after a while, she glanced outside the window with me, then said well then and disappeared. I raised my hand slightly towards Ashley. She said she had a prior engagement, but I wondered if it was with her flight attendant friends. Ashley, traveling the world as she does. She might even have a boyfriend in Paris. The thought unsettled me for some reason. Maybe I still have feelings for Ashley. Of course, I liked Ashley back in high school, but that was over a decade ago. Even in France, there were girls I liked. I had a girlfriend during my university days, and there were a few women I fancied while working for the Canadian airline. Yet, being this unsettled just because a casual dinner invitation was declined. It seems I still haven't gotten over my first love. With a wry smile, I headed to a cafe for some bitter espresso and a light snack. A few days later, when I was piloting the flight back to the US from Paris, something happened. Just as we were about to arrive at Los Angeles, my plane got caught in severe turbulence. Until just before it hit, there were no abnormal readings on the instruments, so it must have occurred suddenly. The aircraft shook violently to the left and right. Today, Thomas, who was on his first international flight as a co-pilot, was with me, and he was completely panicked, unable to even report back to the ground as he had been doing effortlessly just moments before. I immediately reported the situation to the ground and requested support. "Excuse me, Tyler, I have a report for you. Several passengers have sustained injuries," Ashley reported while I was requesting support. Though her words were calm, her voice shook, and her complexion, visible in the mirror, was far from good. Turbulence isn't rare when flying, but this time it was unusually intense. "Stay calm, Thomas and Ashley. It's going to shake, but take a sip of water," I said, trying to sound calm and composed, as they are the people I'd want to rely on in an emergency. Though my tone was calm and slow, my mind was racing. Then, a warning light indicating an issue with the engine started flashing. This was unexpected. Still, responding to unexpected situations is part of being a captain. I told myself to calm down 3 times, then took a deep breath. Next, I made an announcement to the passengers, explaining the current situation. Due to the shaking, there's a higher risk of injury, so I asked everyone to be careful. Even though it's an emergency, fortunately, we're close to our destination airport, and I informed them that we're aiming for a landing as scheduled. Simultaneously, I kept in close contact with the air traffic controller. Thomas's hands were still shaking, but since it was his first time on an international flight and he was faced with 2 issues at once, I could understand his panic. "Ashley, please support Thomas," I requested. "I understand the feeling of being overwhelmed, but he is still the co-pilot. It's crucial for Thomas to regain his composure quickly and support me." Ashley, who had taken a sip of water and looked a bit better, I asked her to follow up with Thomas. I was grateful that the air traffic controller was experienced. When the engine trouble occurred during the turbulence, I feared the worst. However, thanks to the controller's precise guidance and instructions, I managed to land the aircraft safely on the runway. Later, I heard that when we landed, the passengers inside the plane burst into applause. I regretted frightening them, but I was relieved that no one was seriously hurt, apart from some minor bruises and scrapes. "Tyler, you are an incredible person. I knew you were a skilled pilot from what the boss said, but this is beyond my expectations." After landing and seeing off the passengers, Thomas, who had returned to the cockpit, grabbed my hand while crying. No, I just did what a captain is supposed to do." In reality, my legs were trembling a bit, but I hid this nervousness and managed to smile. If it were any other pilot, the worst could have happened. I'm here and fine, and all the passengers are safe, all thanks to you, Tyler. Your judgment was really outstanding. It was the air traffic controller who gave us really precise instructions, so we owe it to them that we made it, I deflected. To overcome such a crisis and still be so humble, I'll strive to become a person like you, Tyler. Thomas, deeply moved by the safe landing, was crying for quite some time. After taking Thomas to the ground, I approached Ashley, who was inspecting inside the plane. "Ashley, are you okay?" I asked, noticing she seemed to be limping a bit. "Yes, I'm sorry for losing my composure earlier." "No, it's natural to be startled at first, but you quickly became calm and helped Thomas, which was a great help." I had to get back quickly to support the passengers because they were all anxious. Ashley said with a smile, Did you hurt your foot? Just a little. I twisted my ankle while trying to support an elderly passenger during the turbulence. Let me take a look. I'll take care of it, I offered. I made Ashley sit down, carefully applied a wet compress, and wrapped it with a bandage. Wearing heels probably made the twist worse. It was swollen badly. There was also a cut on her knee, possibly injured at the same time, which I disinfected. Tyler, Ashley began, wincing from the pain of disinfection. I said something terrible when you told me you were leaving high school. It's late, but I'm sorry. It's okay, don't worry about it. I was also stressed and spoke harshly at that time. Sorry. Later I heard about your family situation. I didn't know you were going through that at the time. I was just scared and sad that you were leaving for another country, and I said those things to make you stay. After hearing about your family, I regretted what I said so much. It's all right. I hadn't told anyone about my family situation either. Let's consider this a reconciliation, okay? While tying the bandage on her knee, I smiled at Ashley. Ashley also smiled. Yes, a reconciliation after 15 years. After the turbulence incident, Ashley and I were able to return to the carefree relationship we used to have. I continued to be a captain, flying around the world, and Ashley, as a flight attendant on international flights, often flew on the same planes as me. Of course, all flight attendants support me as a captain, but with Ashley, our mutual understanding helped me a lot as she quickly grasped what I needed. Ashley also said, I feel more at ease on the planes you pilot than anyone else's. We maintained a good relationship. But there was one problem with our good working relationship. I still had feelings for Ashley, but now that we had become good colleagues, I didn't know how to tell her. I tried to ask her out several times, especially after long flights, but I was always interrupted by colleagues or ended up talking about work, and my feelings remained unspoken. We'll attend without ever being able to ask her out. They say first loves are never fulfilled. It was on one of those days, filled with such aching emotions. Ashley came and sat beside me as I was gazing at airplanes on the rooftop of the airport. Tyler, have you eaten yet? Not yet. I was just spacing out, watching the planes. I thought so. Here, I bought you a sandwich too. Oh, thanks. You're so thoughtful. Of course, you haven't changed since high school. Back then, you'd get so engrossed in talking about planes that you'd skip lunch. Really? I don't remember that. Yes, but I enjoyed listening to you talk passionately about planes. I didn't realize it then, but I became interested in planes too. That's why I became a flight attendant. I made you decide on a career because of me. Oh, no, I'm grateful to you. I think this job suits me. Ashley always looks me in the eye when she talks, but today she didn't. I was really happy that you were the only one who listened to me talk about planes until the end. Even when I went to Canada, I couldn't forget about you, Ashley. Me too. Her voice was inaudible, but I saw Ashley's lips move. Thinking it was now or never to ask her out, I took a deep breath. Ashley, I still have feelings for you. Tyler. Ashley's voice choked up. Ashley, will you be with me, with marriage in mind? Her response was lost in the roar of a departing airplane. But her face was full of smiles. Ashley, I love you. As I embraced her slender shoulders, Ashley shed large tears with her sparkling eyes. Tyler, I've loved you too, all this time. I always wanted to be more honest and jump into your arms, but I always ended up being stubborn, unable to say I wanted to be with you. It's okay, Ashley. I understand. I love everything about you, even your slightly clumsy ways. Let's always be together from now on the ground and in the sky. Promise we'll always be together. Don't go anywhere anymore. I won't go anywhere. If I do, it will be with you, Ashley. I remembered the time when I dropped out of high school. Back then, I was just a child, powerless, able only to walk away. But now, it's different. I've become an adult who stands on his own. So, I silently vowed to Ashley's tears that I would never let go, never let her feel lonely again. Years have passed since I returned to the US. Today, I'm flying with many passengers again. Ashley has now been promoted to chief. She efficiently and sometimes strictly manages the cabin attendants on board. The sky is beautiful. Before departure, gazing up at the sky from the airport, I reflect. Of course, the sky seen from the airport or in private is beautiful. Each country's sky has a different color, its own charm. But the most beautiful, I think, is the sky seen from the cockpit, carrying the lives of our passengers. Perhaps it's this tension that makes the sky seem even more beautiful. My life hasn't been smooth. There were times I was pushed to the depths of unexpected despair, but I'm glad I never gave up. I'm grateful to have grasped my dream. Thanks to that, I'm flying in the sky today. Ashley and I, having fulfilled our first love, are planning to marry this spring. I'll keep chasing what I believe in without giving up. If you don't give up, you can reach your goals someday. With these renewed thoughts, I head to the cockpit. Your plane ticket, oops, forgot to buy it, haha, sorry. When I told my boss that I was the only one without a plane ticket for the company trip, that's what he said. Everyone around us burst into laughter. Eventually, the group arrived at the luxury hotel without me. But then, the manager of the hotel told them something. He's not here, so you can't use the facility. Yes, this is where my revenge on my boss begins. My name is Tyler Brown. I'm 40 years old. I am a company employee. I joined this company right after high school, enduring daily harassment from my college-educated boss. His name is Ethan. Lucky you, getting into this company with just a high school diploma. Ethan values educational background and doesn't accept anyone without a college degree. So, he's relentless with me. But I have a reason for sticking it out and not quitting. Sorry, it's always my fault you're in trouble. Not at all, Grandma, you raised me. Consider it payback. Yes, my only family is my grandmother. She hurt her back and can't move around freely, so I take care of her with the help of a daytime helper. With my parents gone, she took me in and raised me, so quitting my job is out of the question for me. I just want her to always be happy. Driven by that sole purpose, I keep on working. She seems to enjoy spending time with her helper during the day, so I want to maintain that lifestyle for her. So, I went straight to work after high school without going to college. My grandma regrets not being able to send me to college, but I just want her to enjoy life without worrying about the past. Got any hotel recommendations for the company trip in 5 months? One morning, our department head, Michael, asked all the employees during the morning meeting. The trip was in 5 months, and he was looking for a hotel to stay in. Knowing little about the local accommodations, Michael was asked by Mr. Smith, CEO, to gather suggestions from the employees. Remembering a hotel I stayed at near that tourist spot, I eagerly raised my hand. Yes, I've stayed at a hotel around there before. How about that one? I suggested the hotel I once stayed in with my grandma to Michael. After I told him the name and location, he happily agreed to check it out and report it to Mr. Smith. Anyone else? If not, I'll report Tyler's suggestion to Mr. Smith. All in agreement. With Michael's call, all employees replied yes, and the meeting ended. As I returned to my work, hoping my suggested hotel would be chosen, it happened. That hotel you mentioned is a luxury hotel, isn't it? You, a high school grad and bottom-tier employee, stayed there, quit lying and showing off. Suddenly appearing before me was Ethan. He seemed to know about the hotel I had suggested to Michael. I'm not trying to show off. It's a place my grandma took me to when I was little. The view from the room is great. It's spacious, and I just thought it would be nice for everyone to stay there. I explained this, though Ethan's condescending attitude still bothered me. But Ethan just laughed more upon hearing it. Your grandma took you there? Huh, that's hilarious. If you were really rich enough to afford a luxury hotel, you'd have been sent to college, wouldn't you? He ridiculed me without any knowledge of my family circumstances, as if it were a matter of course. Just because someone has graduated from college doesn't necessarily mean they're superior. But I couldn't talk back, as Ethan is my boss. After being berated, I went back to work, though not in the best mood. I'm home. Are you okay? You seem down. Returning home feeling down, my grandma greeted me as usual but looked worried seeing my state. Not just about what Ethan said, but I also had to tell Grandma about the company trip. Participating in the trip means leaving this house. A helper takes care of Grandma during the day, but I've always been there at night, so we need someone else. The company has decided to go on a trip. Oh, that's great. You work hard, so why not take a break and go? Grandma's casual response surprised me, but sensing my hesitation, she continued. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. We've got the neighbor lady nearby, so don't worry about me and enjoy your trip. Our neighbor is a slightly younger elderly lady who's always been close to my grandmother. It seems my grandmother has arranged so that she can stay over at that lady's house. Thanks, Grandma. Her reassurance brought a smile to my face, and I continued to tell her more about the trip. Later on, the company trip was decided to be at the luxury hotel I recommended. It was a 2-night, 3-day trip. The trip, packed with luxury to reward the employees for their hard work and contributions, included sightseeing at the destination. Looking at the distributed itinerary, I was excited when Michael called me over. Sorry to ask, but could you handle the flight and hotel bookings? I'm not great with this stuff. Leave it to me. Having recommended the luxury hotel to Mr. Smith and Michael, I gladly took on the responsibility. Man, I owe you one. Mr. Smith loved the luxury hotel you suggested, and he's looking forward to it. Hearing this from a pleased Michael raised my anticipation for the day. Arranging everything would ease the burden on Michael and Mr. Smith. It felt great to be helpful. I quickly booked the flights and hotel reservations for everyone attending the trip. The next day, as other employees checked the reservations, they noticed a discrepancy in the number of flight tickets. Tyler, it seems we're one ticket short. What? I'll check it right now. I hastily opened my computer to review the purchase history. Comparing it with the list, I realized something. Sorry, I forgot to book my own ticket. Realizing I had omitted myself from the list, I chuckled, joined by my colleagues who helped me check. It's good to prioritize others over yourself, but still. Teased by Michael, the office filled with laughter. It was a pleasant atmosphere. However, Ethan and some other college-educated employees chimed in disapprovingly. It's not just forgetting. If we hadn't noticed, we'd have been scrambling because of you on the day. That's true, but, well, Ethan, let's leave it at that. We noticed it in time, so it's all good. Now that all the reservations are done, we should proceed with buying the plane tickets. Ethan, I'd like to pass the baton to you this time. Asked by Michael, Ethan, looking dissatisfied behind my work, nodded. Then he snatched my reservation documents and quickly disappeared. At that moment, for some reason, I had a bad feeling. It was especially because Ethan seemed unconvinced. But surely, he wouldn't go as far as to sabotage a major event like the company trip. I was completely off guard. Take care and have fun. Thank you, Grandma. Please, Susan, please take good care of Grandma for me. And then, the day of the company trip finally arrived. With my suitcase in hand, I bid farewell to my grandma and our neighbor Susan, and hurried to the airport. I decided to enjoy the next 2 nights and 3 days, a reward for my hard work. Upon arriving at the airport by taxi, I saw some colleagues had already arrived. Ethan's distributing the plane tickets. Another employee told me this, so I went looking for Ethan and saw him chatting with some college-educated employees a little distance away. I immediately headed in that direction. "Good morning, Ethan. Can I have my plane ticket, please?" I approached, and as Ethan noticed me, a painful stare came my way, but I still asked. To my surprise, Ethan just smirked and laughed. "Your plane ticket? Oops, forgot to buy it, haha. Sorry." At Ethan's words, the college-educated employees around him burst into laughter, some holding their stomachs. Ethan was laughing so hard he was in tears. "Ah, so funny. Sorry, I forgot to buy it, but you forgot a reservation once too, so we're even, right?" Ethan dug up my past mistake, seemingly to justify his own. He deliberately didn't buy my ticket. The fact that this was the case was beyond shock and anger. I had reached my limit of tolerance, apparently more than I thought. Finally, I exploded in anger at Ethan's harassment, even at such a time. "I understand. If that's the case, I'll cancel my trip right here." "Cancel? You've come this far and you're canceling. You can buy a ticket on the day, right? Who would willingly buy their own ticket when it's supposed to be covered by the company?" Even if I did buy it myself, with Ethan around, he'd surely find ways to harass me at the destination. He's intending just that. He looked at me as if he had won. So, the best action for me was not to participate in the trip. Of course, the reason for my choice would become clear later. It might look like I'm giving up, but it's actually a strategic retreat. I have no desire to buy a ticket on the day to join this trip. Knowing how much Ethan and the others dislike me, I'd rather gracefully step back. "I thought you'd beg to join, but this is a letdown. Don't worry, we'll enjoy the trip enough for you. Just stay and take care of your grandma. Maybe you should consider a career change to a helper, huh?" Ethan's words again caused an uproar of laughter. Other passengers and employees arriving at the airport looked annoyed at Ethan and his group, but they didn't care. Unable to stand being around such insensitive people, I turned around. "Michael and Mr. Smith haven't arrived yet, so please tell them I'm canceling. Goodbye." "Sure thing, see ya." After telling the rowdy group, I left the airport. What happened to Tyler? Later, during roll call, Michael, noticing my absence, asked Ethan. Tyler said he suddenly felt unwell and went home. "Is that so? I hope he's all right. Looks like everyone's here then." After the roll call, everyone boarded the plane under Michael's direction. Soon after, the plane departed and safely arrived at the destination, a popular tourist spot. Meanwhile, I returned home with my carry-on, put down my luggage, and then went to visit our neighbor, Susan. "Aren't you supposed to be on the company trip?" Susan was quite surprised to see me back, and when I told her I returned because I felt ill, she became extremely worried. Her and my grandma's concern, suggesting I rest immediately, made me feel comforted. I have people who worry about me like this in my everyday life. But in reality, I wasn't ill at all. I just couldn't bear the harassment I received from Ethan earlier and returned home. I didn't want to cause him any unnecessary worry. Glancing at Susan's clock, I realized that by now, Ethan and the others would be arriving at the destination. Thinking about them moving to the luxury hotel I recommended by evening, I couldn't help but smile to myself. Secretly smiling under the blanket I borrowed from Susan, neither she nor my grandmother noticed. And before I knew it, evening arrived, and everyone reached the luxury hotel. Looking up at the impressive luxury hotel, the employees' expectations, having thoroughly enjoyed the tourist spot, grew even more. Come to think of it, Tyler was the one who reserved this luxury hotel, saying the group reservation should be under his name should work, right? Ethan said this, and an oblivious Michael followed him to the reception. Upon giving the company name, They checked the reservation. Which of you is carrying the membership card? Membership card. Confused Michael and Ethan tilted their heads as the receptionist explained. Our hotel accepts reservations and stays from guests who have a membership card. For a group, the person who made the reservation would typically be the representative and have their name on the list. We left the reservation to our employee, Tyler, so it should be under his name, right? Michael, realizing they might not be able to stay without the card, showed signs of panic. Thinking mentioning my name might help, as I made the reservation. The reservation is listed, but where is Mr. Tyler Brown? Either way, without presenting a membership card, you cannot use our hotel. Tyler suddenly felt ill and couldn't come, so we don't have his membership card. Ethan, too, began to show signs of panic, his voice of frustration spreading among the surrounding crowd. The employees looked anxiously at Michael and Ethan. I'm sorry, but get the manager out here. I'll talk to them. Hearing Ethan's words, the receptionist switched with the manager. I am the manager here. I've checked again, but without Mr. Brown, who made the reservation, you cannot stay. The hotel reiterated that they couldn't stay as per the reservation list. However, Ethan became even more irritated and threatened. Get the CEO out here. The manager hurriedly reached for the phone and made a call. Are you available? I'll come to you. Please wait. Understood. The manager had called the hotel CEO, Mr. Johnson. After hanging up, the manager informed Michael and the others that CEO Johnson would be coming to the reception. What's going on here? Our company's CEO, Mr. Smith, having heard about the commotion, arrived, and Michael and Ethan explained everything they had been told by the manager. Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson arrived with his secretary. Nice to meet you. I'm Johnson, the CEO of this hotel. Thank you very much for your courtesy. Everyone swallowed hard at the sight of both CEOs meeting. Unconcerned by the tense atmosphere, the two CEOs exchanged business cards and spent a moment inspecting them before putting them away. Actually, I've just been informed by my employees that we can't stay here without a membership card. Yes, the guest who has the card supposedly fell and hasn't arrived at our hotel. Mr. Smith looked anxious, but Mr. Johnson maintained a smile throughout. As Ethan became increasingly suspicious, Mr. Johnson was about to make a shocking revelation. Mr. Tyler Brown, the guest in question, called me earlier. He wasn't actually ill, but couldn't come here because a malicious employee didn't give him a plane ticket. A malicious employee. At Michael's words, everyone's gaze suddenly turned to Ethan. He was the only one who had openly shown malice towards me, so everyone unanimously directed their stares at him, making him even more flustered. It wasn't me. Don't lie, I heard it. At the airport, Ethan told Tyler he forgot to buy his ticket. Is that true, Ethan? Mr. Smith confronted Ethan, who seemed to be in doubt. Looking around for help in a panic, but with witnesses present, no one defended Ethan. Even the college-educated employees pretended not to know him. Ethan, looking frustrated, finally confessed the truth. It was just a light-hearted joke. He's only a high school graduate and always tries to outshine me, a college graduate. I couldn't bear the thought of him going on the company trip. So, Ethan admitted he deliberately didn't buy my plane ticket. Mr. Smith scolded Ethan for his actions. What have you done? You've ruined our much-awaited trip. Does this mean we have to sleep outside on our first day? Don't worry, Mr. Smith. As an exception, we will allow you to stay tonight without a membership card. I have a long-standing relationship with Mr. Brown, so I cannot let his colleagues sleep outdoors. Thank you, you've saved us. Everyone was relieved by Mr. Johnson's consideration. Now that everyone knew Mr. Johnson and I were acquainted, Ethan spent the day quietly, a change from his usual behavior. Thank you for your cooperation. Not at all, please don't worry about it. Please extend my regards to Dorothy. After everyone was settled in the hotel, Mr. Johnson called me, and I expressed my gratitude upon hearing what had happened. Mr. Johnson was an old friend of my grandmother and had been close to us for many years. Since my grandmother hurt her back, I hadn't been able to visit or use the hotel. When I mentioned introducing the hotel for the company trip, he was very pleased and had been looking forward to seeing me, but unfortunately, things turned out this way, leaving me feeling apologetic. I promised to visit him again with my grandmother and ended the call with Mr. Johnson. Afterwards, everyone returned safely from the company trip, but Ethan was severely reprimanded by Mr. Smith and Michael. His deliberate omission of buying other employees plane tickets and the harassment towards me and other high school graduates came to light, leading to his transfer. After his transfer, I heard Ethan ended up in a department where the head of the department seemed to be a very strict man and he had to be disciplined every day, and I hoped that he would learn from this and stop prejudging and harassing people based on their educational backgrounds. Long time no see. How have you both been? Thanks to my grandson, I'm always in good spirits. Several years later, I visited Mr. Johnson's hotel with my grandmother, who was in good health. We couldn't make it to the company trip years ago, but I'm really glad we could visit together this time. The reunion was a joy for Mr. Johnson, and my grandmother was all smiles in the welcoming atmosphere. I felt deeply moved, knowing that it wasn't just my effort that brought about this happiness. It's all because of the connections we've made, I thought to myself.